Now I'm joined from Massachusetts by Myung-Koo Kang. He's professor of political science at Baruch College. Professor Kang, good to have you back on our show.
Thank you for having me.
Nikki Haley, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, called this sanction against DPRK, quote unquote, the largest economic sanctions package ever leveled against the North Korean regime. That's what she said. Do you see it that way too?
In terms of scale, in terms of economic sanctions scale, it's the largest one. There have been 6 sanctions in the past, for the past decade since from 2006. This is the 7th UN Security Council resolution. Considering the past 6 resolutions, sanction resolutions, this is the largest one in terms of scale. Yes, that's true.
Well, the question is, like Beijing said, we've got to, on the one hand, bring the parties back to the negotiation table on top of the sanctions. So can sanctions alone solve the issue?
No, definitely not. As the Chinese government and the Russian government and the South Korean government have emphasized, sanctions should go along with some kind of high-level talks. So going back to the 6-party talks or multilateral talks or bilateral talk would be a necessary step in addition to this kind of sanction.
Well, but the thing is, the North Korean government is saying that they still feel the hostility from the U.S., not just the military exercises in the Western Pacific, but also the hostility itself. Mixed messaging from the U.S. government. The U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson made it clear that the U.S. doesn't seek regime change in a press conference last week. But the CIA director, Mike Pompeo, implied the U.S. should perhaps remove Kim Jong-un from power. Does that send mixed messages to the DPRK, and does it make it harder for Pyongyang to truly believe in America's intentions?
In fact, that is the real goal, a strategic goal of the U.S. government. For instance, at this stage, I don't think the U.S. government cannot, willingly acknowledge the nuclear power. I mean, North Korea as a nuclear power. So in terms of future diplomatic negotiations or talks, the United States, in a sense, need to maximize the sanctions first, and then quite make the U.S. approach in dealing with the North Korean nuclear and missile program is quite credible and quite serious. So the U.S. government wanted to make a quite serious message to the North Korean government. So I think it's a kind of strategic tactics and diplomatic skills. So if the North Korean regimes feels that American government's message or genuine message is quite mixed and uncertain, I think U.S. government is achieving its diplomatic goal here.
Finally, how do you think Pyongyang will respond to the latest sanctions, as you said, and you agree that it is the harshest sanctions yet in the past decade? How will Kim Jong-un respond to it? More ballistic missile tests?
I guess so. So far, North Korea launched 2 times of ICBM tests, but North Korean regime needs to prove re-entry skill, and also it needs to demonstrate it can load nuclear warhead on the ICBM. So I expect at least 3 or 4 more ICBM tests in the coming year.
Professor Myung-Koo Kang, thank you so much for your insight.
Okay, thank you for having me.